Mhm.
Hey, Paul. You're muted, by the
There's my alarm. It's saying, go see Thailand.
way. What's up, Paul? How you doing? Can you hear me?
I sure can. Let me turn on my lights
Okay.
here. I sure can. What
Did you
happened?
have a problem?
Did you get
Did you
into a
have a
fight?
Nah, just some scar that I need to just cover up so I can like stop messing with it or stop messing it up.
Got it up.
Did you have problems joining this at all?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Now, yesterday, some people were telling me they were having some problems joining.
No. I mean, no, no. All I did was click the Luma link and Zoom popped right up.
Okay. Sweet.
Yeah.
How's your morning going?
Good, good. How was yesterday's? I wasn't able to make yesterday's.
Oh, it was good. I'll have the recording out today, or it'll be up on YouTube. Like I said, pretty hands-on and straightforward, making sure kind of like everybody actually gets to do something. So most of the people like have Claude Code or bought Claude Code and just went through organizing files and basic stuff. So a lot of people are like cleaning up folders and getting stuff ready for content. So I just like grabbed some files from AI table that I haven't like finished the workflow that I wanted to do and it downloaded FFmpeg and made some folders and made some content and transcribed it and probably gonna use
Cool.
that later out throughout the sessions and stuff like that.
And you use FFmpeg
Oh,
directly, or do you
well,
use it through the no the
no, no, I use it through the API, but just in general, like as an example, that's what I was showing people like
got
what
it.
it can do and go already download it by itself and stuff like that.
Cool.
Yeah. Hey Jim, hey Adrian. How you guys doing?
How you doing, China?
I'm doing
Morning.
good. Did you just leave the other meeting early?
Uh, yes.
That's so funny. I did want to stay and talk about some other stuff, but that's fine. Jim is a friend from another friend's group that I joined on a group called Alignable. Glad to have you here, Jim.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Good morning, Dan. Good morning, Bliss. Good morning, Adam.
Good morning.
How you guys doing?
Doing Thailand as my fathom in here too.
It was in here, but I think yeah, it's right here actually. I see it.
Perfect. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Somebody's leaving or coming back, but I can't tell who that is. I think it's a little delayed. Probably give it a few more minutes for everybody to kind of join. I know some other people are like, I guess debating to join this or sign up so they can get the recording. Um, but for everyone, hello. This is Thailand, or you guys know me as Chowder. Today, I wanted to focus on a session just building a website with Claude Code. If you guys weren't here for yesterday's recording, that's fine because I'll have it up on YouTube later today, and these sessions will be recorded as well. So they will be up on YouTube. And my kind of whole spiel of building 30 days with Claude Code is just to show people how to use the tool and really be hands-on. And I'm doing that with different things that I normally do for myself or do for other clients. Like I've built a couple of things for Bliss, and there'll be some other people that will join other sessions if you guys are here that I've built some things for, or I'm also showing them how to use Claude Code as well when passing projects back and forth and stuff like that. So my whole goal is to have everyone actually participate if possible, if they do have a Claude, if they do pay for Claude, but they're not using Claude Code yet, or if you guys are interested in signing up for Claude Code and making sure it's actually downloaded on your desktop so you guys can actually, participate and actually leave with something. How you doing, Sarah? Tony, how you doing?
Uh,
Hi.
Tyler, can I ask you a question?
Go ahead, please.
I when I was trying to go through your checklist to install everything, it
Mhm.
the I was getting errors on my screen when I was trying to enable local the local access, and I don't know. It eventually said enable, so I think it's working, but I got errors every time. And when I ran that last check that you said, the prompt, it's telling me that I still need Claude Code and VS Code, but I thought I downloaded the VS Code yesterday. The Visual Studio Code, I downloaded it, I have it, but it says it still needs it.
It might be talking about a path configuration. I'm not obviously sure until I see the actual error, but we'll probably just have you share your screen like yesterday and make sure you're all set away for any problems that are being had.
Okay, can I just share it then?
Give me 1 minute. We'll go through that in a minute, Bliss. For anyone, I do want this to be like really interactive. So for any questions you have for anything that I explain, if you don't understand, there's a React at the bottom where you can raise your hand and I'll just call on you and you can answer your question and I can help you with that problem, like how Bliss is going through or anything else. And with that being said, Bliss, you're on Windows, correct?
Sorry?
You're on Windows, correct?
Yes, correct.
Got you. So I guess my first question to everyone is, did everyone see that checklist? And if they did, were they able to download what the requirements on that checklist were? And if not, who else had any problems with that?
I did not see the checklist.
Got you. I'll walk through it and I'll put a link right now. Give me 1 moment.
Awesome, thanks.
Some of you guys, like Paul and some other people who have been building, probably already have some of these things installed, but it is kind of important to have these things installed and they will help throughout later builds and sessions that we have. So give me 1 minute and I will put a link in the chat and share my screen. No problem, Tony. It's all good. I plan to literally make sure everybody is all set up and walk through. So we have that link there. And I'm going to share my screen actually. Paul, you use a Mac, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I might need your help with some translation or some things later, but not right now. So the first thing is to make some of this a bit easier. This is kind of a trick that I even use when I don't want to install some things or they have problems. So I'm going to pull up Claude Desktop. And remember, please feel free to stop me anytime if I'm going too fast or anything. If you open up Claude Desktop and you come here to your settings and you come down to connectors and you click on Browse Connectors, going to be some MCPs here that you can download. I believe in the desktop extension. If you're on Windows, you're going to see Windows MCP. That's one to download. You're going to see one called File System. For Mac, I believe it's called File System as well, but you don't have one called Windows MCP. I believe it's going to be one down here called Control Your Mac, and it will actually kind of run commands on your Mac and do things in the background to make installation a little bit easier for problems that are kind of like unavoidable, depending on something like a system path or something that Bliss might be growing through. If you download File System, the one thing that you have to do is configure it. And on that gamma, it should actually have the command for you to put it in the terminal and it will give you your actual path. Sarah, I think we did this for you yesterday, so you might not have to worry about it. There's a prompt there that you could put, and it should go through the process of downloading everything for you.
Yeah, this is all what I did yesterday, so this is great.
Oh, okay. So we're all good with that.
Yeah.
Just to make that is really the kind of easiest way. Now I'm just gonna go into like each of these one by one, and if anybody has problems, because it could happen, um, we'll just walk through them. So the first one is Git, and when you come to any of these pages, I'm doing something really slow here, so that's my mistake. Gamma, load for me. Okay. Gamma doesn't want to be my friend right now, so that's fine. So I'm just gonna go to this one by one. We have Git. And by the way, can everybody pull up that Gamma and like click on those links? Is it loading for you guys? If not, I can just put these links individually in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's able to pull up that Gamma.
Oh, I got the gamma up. Let's see.
Paul, you probably
Git,
already have all of these things already here installed.
I do,
But
but I'm just letting you know
What do
that
you
I can't access
you
the
can pull it
links.
up. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Hmm.
And for every one of these that pops up, when you guys pick your system, Windows or Mac, there's going to be an installer, like a pop-up that pops up, and you can just press next through all of that. They're going to have recommended settings. You don't need to change anything at all.
You mentioned when you add some of these extensions, like file system, I did not have that installed. I
Uh-huh.
installed it. You said you have to configure it. Is there more configuring than just adding the directory?
No, so you can kind of so it depends on how you wanted to access really everything. So like as an example, if you only wanted it to pull stuff from your downloads, you would just put like that download directory or path. Or if you wanted to have everything, you would have your actual just user with no paths. That means it has access to everything, if that kind of makes sense. So through me just learning this when I first installed it, eventually I end up just having it have access to everything, which sometimes I think is a little bit easier
Hmm.
just to do some things and prepare. For example, like if you want to edit your Claude Code settings, you can cheat and just have it put the settings there instead of having to do it in Claude Code and restart and other little small things like that, if that gives more context to why I do this.
So if you have your user there, are the rest of the folders that you have there redundant?
Basically, they are redundant. I just haven't taken them. I just personally haven't taken them
Got it.
off. But yeah, they are redundant because this one would be the top of everything
Yeah,
else, and
the root.
everything would be below that. Correct.
Got it.
Mhm. Everybody good so far? Anybody having problems?
And this it may be obvious, but is it fully safe to give it access to root? Like I know that if I was to install OpenClaw or Moltbot, whatever, you don't want to give it access to the root in some
Right.
cases, but is it perfectly safe to do that here with Claude?
I would definitely say yeah, but also too understanding how CLI tools work. That's what Claude Code does. So we could potentially even have Claude Code go through this process. I just think for the sake of the workshop and also just a couple of times when I've tried to do it like that, it's just easier for this and also setting up other things for the future, if that kind of makes sense. But it's not like um, of course, you want to pay attention, like if you have sensitive information on here, like for example, if you save your GitHub repository keys or other things like that, like maybe you put that somewhere separate, like, and you don't give it, like it just doesn't pull from that folder or something, or maybe it can be encrypted, or you put a hash like in that type of file that it makes, so when it does get pulled up, nothing can actually be seen.
Cool.
Got you. Go ahead, Bliss.
Uh, yeah, I'm just trying to still figure out if I'm set up or not.
So you should have your VS Code. You should just be able to go in your search and type in VS Code, and it should pop up. And If it's there,
So,
you're all good.
and it's also saying CLI, but I don't have the CLI link in the things that you gave us, the Gamma.
Which specific CLI?
It says that, how do I bring this conversation up? It says Claude Code. It says you need to install Claude Code CLI via npm command above, and it says VS Code via download or
How were you
winget.
using it yesterday in VS Code? Did you do the extension or did you do the terminal command?
Yesterday I got the VS Code program. I downloaded that.
And you were using the Claude Code extension or did you use it in the terminal? Or do you not
I
remember?
was using the Claude Code extension.
Yeah, so that makes sense of why it's not kind of reading that like through the CLI. So you're fine. So later on, we'll just pull up VS Code in a moment and you'll just pull up the extension and you'll be fine.
Okay.
All right. So I'm hoping everybody, that sounds like everybody besides Bliss is all good. I'm assuming everybody should also have the project that he was talking about, VS Code. Now, for the other experienced people who have done some building, if you're not using VS Code, that's fine. Just for these builds, I'm just choosing to use VS Code for the sake to keep things simple and stuff like that. And if who here, hopefully I can ask this correctly. Jim, I'm pretty sure you might not have one. Paul, you have one. We need to create, oh, you know what? I can just have Claude Code do it for you guys. It doesn't matter. Just want to make sure everybody has a folder where these projects go into so they can go back to later and understand that. And Jim, everybody who wasn't here yesterday, I'll send you guys the video, which was what we walked through yesterday of just some simple stuff of making a folder for later projects or if you attend later builds and stuff
Okay.
like that. But does everybody have VS Code downloaded for the platform? Yeah, everybody's all good. For the people who just downloaded VS Code who were not here yesterday and have not used Claude Code, Jim, I'm not sure if I asked you, do you pay for Claude already or no?
No.
Okay. I If you want to pay for Claude, you know what? Who else in here has not paid for Claude or does not have Claude? Just only Jim?
Yeah.
Jim, can you put your email in the chat? I'm going to give you a pass for 7 days for Claude so you can use it.
Okay.
You don't either, Tony? Ooh, I only have one pass left.
Rock, scissors, papers.
I would say give that pass to Tony.
You sure, Jim?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. What I want to do today is more or less just observe and
Okay.
sort of.
No, it's no problem if you do. My goal is to have everybody, if they do have one membership, do participate. If that, I do want everybody to walk away with something.
Okay.
Are you sure, Tony? Got you. Okay, for sure. So for everybody that already has VS Code and Claude, we're going to do the same thing. We are going to, so this is going to be a new project, right? So we're going to open VS Code. We're going to open our folder, right? Remember, we have that specific folder that we built in. And if you don't have one, so I'm looking for mine. I have a plethora of things here. I'm sorry. Mine is called Code, right? Where I have like all my projects. If you don't have one, you should be able to just right click on whatever like OS you're on, and you should be able to make a new folder. That's all you're going to do. And when you make that new folder, you're going to make another folder inside of that folder. So I have all of these folders here. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to right click and I'm just going to name this new website. And we're going to go into that folder. Now, really quick before we get into the building, because it is pretty straightforward. Is it not letting me select this folder? Okay. Before we get into the building, the goal is to build a website here. Of course, there's probably going to be some other things that we can add, but I just want to talk about, I guess, like the mindset of building when it comes to vibe coding and these other things. And I think one thing that is significantly not talked about is what do you use to build or what is being used to build. So in this case, just gonna nerd out just for a little bit. We're gonna talk about some of the things that we're using here. We're gonna start off with the big one, which is Vercel. This is a terrible way to go into Vercel. I'll just leave it at this though. But Vercel is a hosting platform. Actually, I'm sorry, I'm doing this backwards. We're gonna start with this here. We're gonna start with ShadCN. So we're talking front end today, right? So when people build Lovable, Replit, almost all these vibe coding platforms, what are they using? Under the hood, they're using ShadCN. What is ShadCN? ShadCN is literally a open source free component library to build front ends, built by a company called Next.js, sorry, on a framework called Next.js, which is built by Vercel, right? So you have ShadCN, which is all these little things. If you want an accordion, if you want alerts, if you want all the things that you would use to build a front end. If I come here to these blocks, right, we have dashboards, right? All of these things here that are already built. Just keep that in mind, right? What a lot of people build, they want to build from scratch. You don't need to, right? Because frameworks and open source components already exist. And this is what's being used under the hood. Why? Because the whole point is this code is free. You can use these components, change it to make whatever you want, which I'll show more examples of for a little bit, right? So we got ShadCN, we have Next.js, which is what we'll use to build the front end, which uses these ShadCN components. And in order to deploy that, we use Vercel, which is the company that built all of this stuff together, right? And they allow us to do it for free. Yes, you can pay for other things. We won't get into that, but just to give a premise here. And this is so big and so open source that later, when we get into some other things, that as you can see, they have a registry, which basically means other people, right? Just think of it like other designers, other people who build components do the same thing that are all built on ShadCN, right? So maybe there are components that have to do specifically with, things if you're building an AI chat model, or maybe there are components that have to do with special designs. Actually, I can do this to give an example. Some people might have heard of a website like 21st Dev, right? This is another platform where other people build components on top of ShadCN that you can already plug and play into whatever you have, right? These are two small examples, but they're everywhere. And I'm going into context on this because when a lot of people ask me, how do I build or where do you get these designs and other things? I don't do any creation from scratch. I go look for components or go look for registries where people are building certain things and I go from there, right? Um, so okay, yeah, there we go with that. I think that was a pretty good explanation. So when we come into now our project that we're in, uh, whoever's going to use the extension, they can use the extension. I'm going to use the terminal down here. And we're just going to start up a new project. Now I'm going to do this really weird. I think it's going to be really weird because I know a lot of people think I'm technical, but I do this the same websites that you've seen. If you've seen my new website now or the Claude Code challenge website that I'm building is all the same stuff. I keep it pretty simple, but of course you guys are going to have way more advanced stuff than me. So for example, you guys might, get a website, go have it scraped, go do a plethora of things, and so forth and so on. So actually, Tony, do you have a website or uh, Jim? Can you put in a website? And I'm going to use one of you guys as an example. I would use mine, but I already have one. And I'm going to rebuild, even if they don't use this, just to show an example of rebuilding a next website with the ShadCN components, deploying it to Vercel, going to walk in between when you make changes, staging, why we need Git and all these other things, and we'll have something deployed at the end of this. So I'm thinking he puts. You have one, Adrian? Go ahead. Okay. We'll use this.
Tylen, is this something just for demo purposes or just to have fun playing with?
When you say that, do you mean like at whatever website I make at the end, like if I'll give it to somebody or something?
Yeah, is this actually going to change somebody's website?
It's not going to change that website, but like if somebody wants whatever I make at the end, I'm happy to give it to them. But I'm
Okay.
hoping, like I said, everybody here that is participating will have in uh, a website that they can put in or something that they wanted to make. The real goal at the end is when you're vibe coding, you're gonna kind of understand the process of deploying something when you build it locally to the web, if that makes sense. But I'm
Yeah.
happy to give whatever is made at the end to whoever it is. So it's fine, Tony. I'll use the website that got you. We want to update that. So I'm in plan mode. If you don't know what plan mode is, it's something that Claude has where you just press Shift and Tab, and we go over that. So I'm going to say, my friend Adrian wants me to remake his wife's website. And actually, I forgot I can't say website because it's going to put my website here because I have something there with Whisper Flow. So sorry about that. Hold on. But his wife's website, which is can you go through this website and see what it is about or anything? I haven't looked at it. I want to get some ideas on how to be more creative with it and just make it maybe more beautiful. So the first thing I would do is just have it go look at a site. Actually, let me close this on the side here. That's gonna confuse me. So Claude Code has the ability to scrape the web or look at the web. And actually what it's doing right now is I think using an MCP that I did not tell you guys about yet. So for some reason, it's fetching my website, and I don't know. I think it's doing that just because of this website thing I have in WhisperFlow. So it's searching that website.
What website thing you have in Whisperflow?
When I say, you know how you make snippets? When I say website, it puts my website name.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm talking
You
about,
you
like
were
the
actually
snippets.
pressing the control key to
Yeah, I was
speak.
pressing the control thing to talk, and when I said website, it put my website instead of.
Yep.
So it's gonna do the basic stuff. It's gonna like look through if there's a directory here, there's no directory here. It's gonna ask me, yeah, see, it's confused right now. And that kind of makes sense. I have some other things that are going on. So it's asking me about my Otaku Solutions designs. And I think that's just because it knows like my company and like what I want and stuff like that. So okay. So Next.js, it wants a dark and light mode, clean minimal aesthetic. I'm just gonna leave it at that. It's gonna ask me the color scheme, so keep existing tiller turquoise. I don't know if it has tiller turquoise. Adrian would have to let me know if that's the actual thing. It's asking me, do I want Next.js, which is what it knows I build with all the time and what I just talked about. It's asking me about features and unique layouts and interactive elements, all that. I'm just gonna press yes for now and submit all that. Now, what I do think is going to happen, and I might have to skip a little fast forward, is yesterday, or if you also don't know, in Claude Code, there's a lot of commands. So if you press slash, there's a lot of things that are going on. And when I press slash command, you're probably going to see a lot of things that you might not have saw in here. And one of the reasons that is because I have what are called plugins installed. And one plugin that I have installed, I shouldn't have pressed that, is called Front End Designer. And I think this is a plugin that's officially from Anthropic, but basically all it does is it goes to make a lot of front end stuff and all that. Now, a quick segue, really quick. I've talked about this platform because obviously design is important when you get into like things we'll talk about in a minute, breakpoints, colors, accessibility, all those things like that, right? The best kind of resource that I found for this, and I will put this in the chat, and I'll also make a file or a skill for this later. There's a platform called aura.build. Aura was built by this guy here who's just amazing when it comes to design a lot of very popular apps and other things. what I like is on this prompting guide that he made, it's very detailed when it comes to basically prompting AI on how to build certain things, right? When it comes to, once again, breakpoints, when it comes to animations. Let me come down here for some more examples. Hero sections, pricing tables, landing pages. It's just like I haven't seen anything this detailed and with this many resources, right? So what I did before is I came to this page, I took all of this stuff here and I just put it into my own markdown file that I would give to the agent. And that was very good. I haven't updated that. It's something that I plan to do, or it's going to be like a file where the agent can go to some of these other different tools and use them. But it'll have things such as your color palettes and all these things like that. So I'm going to put this in here for people to have as a resource to either make their own, or if they want to wait until the one that I make, just to kind of give a little fast forward tip on like, obviously, my specialty is not design or anything like that. So having things that are very detailed like this, on top of knowing how I can utilize ShadCN components or other components that people have built, I think is like the real power of just building anything when you're vibe coding, instead of having this mentality that I have to start from scratch for everything that I want to build, if that makes sense.
It makes sense. You mentioned front-end design, and I'm on the Anthropic's website, not Anthropic, but Anthropics, and there's a section in the Claude Code GitHub called front-end design, but it's a skill. It's not a it's not a plugin. Are you referring to something separate than a skill?
It might be the same thing. I'm gonna do a command and show you guys later how you can check what's already on there. I think mine was a plugin though. I don't think it was a skill, but I could be wrong. But that is essentially what I'm talking about. Yes.
Okay. I'll just share this in the chat if anybody wants to see it.
Thank you. And of course, any questions, feel free to press the react button and raise your hand if I'm going too far or you don't understand
Oh,
anything.
my bad. I'll raise my hand next time.
No, Paul, you're all good. You're all good. I just want to say, just in case anybody else felt like they wanted to ask a question. So right now it's still planning, which is fine. Of course, in kind of like a quote unquote more advanced environment, I would already have, and I made the mistake of not turning on my MCPs, which I'll do after. I already have a lot of things preset on my Claude Code, right? So going back to the page here with with ShadCN, they actually have a MCP server. So and I'm going to show this in a minute, every time I start up a project, I have the Shad MCP server already there. So when it comes to any design point, when I'm done doing whatever it is, and I just want to focus on, hey, are all of these ShadCN components, are all of these being used correctly, et cetera, et cetera. I have the MCP actually going into these registries that I'm talking about. It's actually able to go into the ShadCN registry itself, right? And literally look at the code, look at all these examples that I was showing you earlier, which once again is way better than just having the AI build something from scratch, which is custom, which I guess doesn't make sense if you know you're going to be using Next.js or a framework where you can use ShadCN, which is kind of almost any front end framework. So this is making agents to still, this is funny, it's just still building. And it's, as I'm saying this, right, it's reading registry.json because I do have that MCP already turned on. And
So, Tylen, let me ask you a question. How familiar is everybody? Like, what is everybody on this call's skill level when it comes to vibe coding? Would you say, like, generally on a scale of 1 to 10, like, are you a 10, 9, a 5, a 2?
Everybody
Sarah,
can
what are
definitely
you?
answer, but I think everybody is like maybe a 5. I think some people have played with vibe coding, but not from a Claude Code perspective into some of like the advanced things, if that makes sense.
Does everybody know the frameworks that you're talking about? Does everybody know how to use an MCP?
From Claude Code, no, which I'm gonna show in a minute. I just forgot to turn mine off. So yesterday I went through all that. Like I turned mine off and I talked about it. I didn't
Got it.
Yeah, if that makes sense. I just forgot to turn mine off at the start of this conversation, but I can see that it's pulling from here and to do that. So I'm waiting until it gets out this plan mode because I can't do anything else. I don't want to start another terminal and make it more confusing. But once that finishes, I'm going to go into my /MCP, go into that command, look at the tools, and do
So
that.
let me ask you another question. So you started off in VS Code, you're using Claude Code, but now you're in Windsurf.
Oh, you guys got to definitely correct my eyes on that. That is a problem. Let me close this. That's not supposed to be open. Thank you for that. Those color schemes go right past my eyes every time. So he's correct. Like I said before, I use Windsurf, which is this. It's literally a clone of VS Code and IDE, which is where you just go edit code. And I'm so used to opening that one up because I don't use VS Code.
So then answer this. What if you're teaching about Claude Code, what is the benefit of using Claude Code over Windsurf? And if you are teaching about Claude Code, why use Windsurf?
Yeah, so I went into that yesterday.
Oh, my
A
bad.
lot of people are not familiar with the terminal, right? So one of the main goals of all of these builds for people who have Claude Code is to actually get familiar with the terminal, which would usually be in an IDE. So some people might already have Windsurf, some people might not have any IDE. I'm just choosing VS Code as the basics before we get into everything else. But also, it eliminates, like, for instance, Windsurf. It has its own AI stuff in it, right? Hopefully that answers the question. I just chose to use VS Code as a basic to show, hey, when you're building things or when you're messing with these files, you can actually see them here because in the regular terminal, if you were to pull it up, you're not going to see those files or it's going to mess up that experience of building whatever it is that you're building.
And if anybody is not familiar with it, I personally use Warp as my terminal. I don't use a terminal anymore. I don't use VS Code. I don't use terminal. I use Warp for all of it. And Warp does everything. Literally, you just tell it what you want it to do, and it will do it for you. It takes a lot of this stuff out. Yeah, you don't even have to do a lot of the stuff he's doing right now. You just tell it what you want it to do, and it will set all of these things up. You point it to the directory. He said he went to that website and put all that information to a markdown file. You can just tell it to look at that markdown file wherever it's located and say, set up a project, and it will set up the whole thing for you.
No, I didn't have it go. To be honest, I'm not sure what it did on that website. I don't think Adrian commented when it said anything about the colors. I'm just giving I I don't have a specific workflow to give to everyone. And when I say that, I mean everyone here is going to have their own different workflow of how they go into using Claude Code specifically with whatever files are there or anything, if that kind of makes sense. I just wanted it to just show me talking and putting something there to kind of your point of what is it going to do when I know I'm saying like these specific things or whatever the case may be. So I just made a mistake because I happen to be I use Windsurf all the time and didn't have VS Code, but it's doing that now. It made a directory and it's
Did you
creating
have to
that
run a
project.
command to do that, or did you tell it?
I didn't run any command. It's back from the same thing that I said earlier. All I said was my friend Adrian wants me to remake his wife's website, which is this website.
Got it.
You can right. The confusion is because I'm using Whisperflow, it put in my website. That's
Got
why
it.
whenever I say website, it will automatically put Otaku Solutions. I just forgot that. So when we went down here and it started asking me about my website, it had already built everything, if that makes sense. I just accidentally opened Windsurf and until you corrected me, I kind of didn't see that. So it said, hey, this is phase one. This is the design. Of course, AI will always say some, sorry about that. That always go down. Come back here, right? So it goes into the whole phases, what files. I never pay attention to this day stuff. Obviously, it's not going to take days to do that, but it went through a whole plan of whatever it is that it's going to do, right? Back to what you were saying earlier, it said I typed in plugin, which I did because I was going to show that plugin. It ran an error. It said, oh no, okay, that was a mistake. Now it's just going through that process of making a website, which I'll go into next. I hate how things copy. uh, local host and all those things like that, and then deploying to Vercel. Any questions so far about all the technical stuff that I've said?
Way too many questions to start.
Is anybody actually running commands for it to build anything at all, like yesterday?
So
To
when
build.
I put Claude,
Go ahead, Buzz.
I was saying when I put the / Claude in the terminal to start it, I got an error. So I think
Only Claude, no /.
only Claude.
But if you were using the app like yesterday, you wouldn't be in the terminal. You would be clicking this little extension button up here if you see my mouse on it for you. I think yesterday that's where you were using. I'm not sure if you were using the terminal.
No, yesterday I actually had to drop out at 3 p.m. So I didn't get to stick around until when you were doing the stuff. So
Got you.
as you got building, I was out.
Got you. Are you able to run either one of those? The terminal one?
Yeah,
If not, I can
I
show
just
you how
did
to.
the Claude and it started it. Yeah.
Got you. Perfect. So right
Thanks,
now,
Remy,
this is just
for
going through the basic installing stuff. And I was saying this yesterday, and Paul, I'd be curious to hear, as I know you build stuff, what you do. Whenever AI, because I know a lot of other platforms you can't do this, and I can't speak on those entirely. I could be wrong. I've only been using Claude Code. Whenever Claude is doing this initial stuff, if at the moment I had something else I wanted it to do, right, I can open another terminal or I can open another chat in this extension. I can start talking to Claude, right? And then I can start planning out other stuff. So like maybe Adrian knows that he wants some back end stuff to happen with this, right? So you can have a whole different conversation saying, I'm thinking about adding a back end to this. So whenever users comes to my friend's websites and they fill out information, it will send that information to their CRM or an automation platform. What do you think we need? And obviously, I'm not going to build out a back end right now, but just showing not kind of just being stuck and waiting for Claude to do something when it's going through, a long task where it has agents building something in parallel for whatever it is. You can open up another terminal and, start planning for another idea or something like that, whatever the case may be. And it says right now I should be able to open this on localhost, and for some reason I can't.
I have a question.
Go ahead, sir.
Um, for that separate session you're creating, do you have
Mhm.
a way to track what each one is handling? Like, can you easily rename those names in the sidebar where it says Claude twice? I'm wondering if you can like rename that so you
Oh
know
yeah, you
like
can.
this is
Yeah,
working
so
on back
yeah, so
end,
you
the other
can.
one.
Of
Okay,
course, you can
got it.
right click on this and press rename, and then change it to like whatever you want. And you can actually drag this out a little bit more so like you can see it. And if you are using a terminal, if you want, you can drag even this up all the way so you can see it a little bit more. It's all up to your preference.
Got it. Cool.
Mhm.
Thanks.
Personally, I'm not. I haven't got to the point yet where I'm too confused on what's going on, even though these are different Claude. I do think I should be naming them. I'm not though, because I'm I know like what that direct task is, so I'm not like that much confused if that makes sense. I
Got
usually
it.
don't do too much of a database thing like this, like that database as an actual example would have been in this first plan. But maybe as an example, I'm looking at, I may come back here and I go to a registry, I mean, a directory, right, of all these other components that I was talking about, and I look at this, right? And I'm like, ooh, this is a terrible example. I'll go to another one in a minute, right? But I'm like, ooh, I like these components here. I like this. Like, let me go give it this information and start up with a plan on what it needs to change and stuff like that, if it makes sense. Sometimes it's,
Hmm.
of course, it's directed to the app, but it's like kind of still separate in terms of doing because I might not even do anything. It might be a dead conversation depending on what research comes back or what we talk about or whatever the case may be.
Hmm.
But yeah, did it leave that entire thing? Okay, sorry, it's a whole new tab. I wanted to show like A better example of this. So where's the AI elements? This is a good one. This is a ShadCN component. So when you're building AI applications, Vercel has components that they made that are for a plethora of things that are in AI. So like attachments, tools being displayed, all these little cool things that you see, right? They basically have components going back. So if I was building an AI application, I would probably come here, right, get these docs or put in that registry, go back, start a new conversation and say, hey, the plan is, look at what components we can use that would be helpful in what I'm building or whatever the case may be, and et cetera. Maybe back to the database one, maybe I have a database already and I'm thinking about migrating to a different database. So I'm just going to have that separate conversation there and have that running. And then, then I can start off from that conversation or have a plan and then go from there or whatever it may be.
Got it.
You go back to the elements page again?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, so this is of course Vercel, they have a lot of AI stuff for building. It's not even funny. But yeah, to give an example, like a lot of us want to build chatbots, a lot of us want to do different things. They already have these things set up for you to use. You don't need to start from scratch. And of course, they're using them themselves in products like VO or other big companies that are building on top of Vercel are doing the same thing. To give another example and not segue too much, you have the Vercel gateway, or just knowing what an AI gateway is. And let's say you're building an application and you wanted to generate whatever with AI, you might choose OpenAI. And later on, you might want to choose to Anthropic. So what does that mean? That means you have to literally switch out the entire code, right? Or add another layer of code on top of both. Whereas if you have a gateway, right, you have one gateway that gives you access to all of the models, right? You can have one API key that allows you to have access to all the models. And now you have a chat application where you can offer whatever model you want and charge whatever you want. But once again, you're not trying to build that from scratch is the one thing that I want to hone on. These things are already here easily for you to incorporate into like whatever applications that you're building. Any questions on that before I pull up this site and see what it made so far and then make some changes?
Well, one question is like, how do these all tie to each other? Do you like you got components from ShadCN, components from Aura, components from Vercel Gateway, but
They're all on Shad, they're all built on ShadCN.
they're all built on ShadCN. And so, but
Right.
how do you decide like when and where to put these in during your vibe coding project?
So going to like the I guess it really depends on what you're building. So like the AI
Mhm.
elements, I use that in almost any application. The AI gateway, I use that in almost any application because I
Mm.
just know that, I mean, you know this, right? Like we get clients that want to switch all the time. Or what if they want to add image generation, right? And knowing that I'm gonna have to build a whole separate layer when I can just use this from the start. This is kind of separate. Remember the conversation we were having when I was talking about like rebuilding templates and stuff?
Hmm.
That kind of goes into that. If I know, right, what I'm building or if everything is built on these ShadCN components, more than likely I'm using a Next.js framework. So my front end is already good. I have components that I can start with. There's already a base layer, and I can edit that however I want and create something new. Or I can go look at other people that have created a plethora of components for different things. Maybe it's for style, maybe it's for design, maybe it actually has to do with like the Vercel AI. Maybe it has to do with actual things that are being built to take it a step higher. And I can only, I don't mean to segue too much, but to answer his question, you have things like, hopefully it pops up, AUGI, where if you want to build a application where the AI can actually control, right, the front screen or take someone there, you wouldn't build that from scratch. Why? Because once again, they have those elements, right? These components, this whole framework built on top of the ShadCN thing that I'm talking about, if that makes sense.
It does. So if you're going to build some of these things, you could essentially just have all of these different links and components in a prompt, or, in a file. And whenever you start a project, you just tell it to
Co-
go
Correct.
through this list and add all these things. And then
Correct.
bam, right out of the box,
Correct.
it's got
So
all these pieces and parts.
correct. So I'll even be more one last specific example. Supabase has one called the Supabase library. I think you've heard of me talk about this, and I'm trying to look for it right here. But to answer your question, like remember what I was talking about, right? Like ShadCN understands or has built a directory, right? Because other people build on top of these open source components. So yeah, when you start up a project in the JSON file, you can add this registry, or you can have that MCP that they may have created to their registry in all of your projects. So whenever you start a project up, of course, like me, if you're building AI applications, you don't even need to say anything. The registry is already inside. It knows, and it's going to look at those things first whenever you're building whatever it is that you're building.
Got it. Okay. That's
Mhm.
helpful.
So that's a more, yeah. So like when you, for example, if I go here, most of these uh people who make these components and stuff, they have their own documentation. They may even have like a subscription where you get pro components, but kind of what you'll hear me talk about, I'm not saying it too much, CLI, right? You can pull all of these up in different ways. It can be a CLI command where you pull in all the components. It could be an MCP that's already there, or you have the registry where it will do a CLI command to that registry. And basically, you're literally looking at the exact code or what those components are to be used. So, for example, it has, here's our MCP list. You just run this and there you go. And then you just say whatever it is, and it's going to look for a component as close to that and use it so you can start modifying it or do whatever it is that you want to do.
And this company that you're on right now,
This
Taillock,
is just, it's
is
just
that
a,
part of ShadCN?
so none of these companies are a part of ShadCN. It's
Got it.
just, it's open source, right? So they've made a registry where if you say like, hey, I want to make components, I can go do that. And it's specific for whatever it is, however you want it to style it, or for whatever it could be for, if that makes sense. One simple example is I'm talking about free ones. There are people who do paid ones. So a long time ago, before AI was even out, right? I knew of this company or person right here that makes admin dashboards and components, right? This is all built on top of ShadCN. So whenever I want to go build dashboards, whenever I want to go do anything that has to do with dashboards or with clients, I can just pull in this repo. I already have it, and it's already built. It's done, right? He already customized it to his style. Everybody has different styles. Like the first one you see me pull up, it was all retro. It just depends on what you're making these components for, but everyone can use them if somebody wants it to be free, or they might put a paywall behind it. You pay one time and you have access to it forever. And if they don't have any restrictions, you can go use it for whatever you're building.
Very cool.
Right. But I think the point I want to hone on is just not starting from scratch. What I see a lot of people do when vibe coding or building anything is that they start from scratch. And I think what I'm saying is you don't need to a majority of the time. You can go start with another base and make that into what you want it to be. And of course, reuse that for whenever you want to build again. But a lot of these, what are called components, are already built for you on multiple levels, whether it's a front end, whether it's a back end, a database. Obviously, that's a different conversation, and so forth and so on. So finally, we're going to pull this up and see what it made. Obviously, I have no clue what this is going to look like, but let's see. Oh, no. So we have an error, and I don't know what this error is, but we're going to do the simple copy and paste. Actually, I really don't even have to do that. I can say, I went to page 3001 and the local dev server isn't running. Can you double check that for me? Um, so when you're building anything locally, you're going to see this thing that says port 3000 or local dev server. And basically, your computer or device can run things locally. I guess that's like the best way to say it. You don't technically need to be connected to the internet, I guess, like the normal way, but only you can access it. So when I pull up this page right now, like only I can access this and see this on my computer until it's deployed to Vercel, which we'll do in a moment.
It's kind of like an HTML sandbox.
You could say that, yeah. Yeah, you could say that. And some other, this is a separate conversation, but I know like playing around in platforms, you might see stuff. You know, yesterday for the people who were here, like when I downloaded the PDFs and it was like extensions popping up for me to see the PDF inside. Kind of same thing with when you're working on something locally, like there'll be some extensions that you don't even have to technically go to the browser like I am, and will just show up at the top right here or anything. But I think maybe I'm just normal and used to going into a browser and just looking at it and opening up different tabs. It doesn't bother me too much. And once this fixes this problem, we're going to talk about another tool that you can use, which I don't think a lot of people know about in Claude Code, which is helpful. Just what's happening right now is basically you can have conflicts when you're running something locally. It can be locked, it can be all these other terms, which I don't want to get into. And it's just basically fixing that right now to make sure to see what's running locally to say we need to kill this or close this and have this working. Which I don't think I had anything running at all. So no, I did. I had that other project that I had open when I closed it in Windsurf. That's what it was. So hopefully it lets us see that in a minute. Or maybe it might be already happening. No, I'm still getting a build error. Okay. You know what I need to do? I need to pin this here and drag it over so I don't just reflex. Hmm. Okay, so it killed all the ports, just said we're going to run everything on localhost 3000, which kind of makes sense. That's usually the default, which anything will run locally. But if you have errors like this and you try to build it or do something again, it might for whatever deal. And I actually want this to happen because I know it's going to happen to like it's very normal whenever you're doing something like this. So don't be scared to just copy that command and put it inside and have Claude fix it. But it's something that's so simple as it knows what to fix. So right now it's doing so much stuff that it keeps bringing me back to the top, which sometimes is annoying.
Is the GitHub Anthropics with an S official GitHub, or is that somebody else's?
Um, can you put the link in the chat for me? I feel like the one you're looking at is an official one. I'm just not sure. But if they have that plugin one, I feel like it would be theirs. But I know there's a lot of people who are just making a lot of repositories with skills just to have. Hmm, I don't think this is. Oh no, it might be because they have the Claude Code Discord here. To be honest, right now I'm not sure,
Okay,
Paul.
don't worry
But
about
it
it. I
does
don't want
look
to
like
derail your
no, you're good. It
topic.
does look like an official one. Anyone that has like this logo right here, usually, or it's that orange one,
Hmm.
is like an official one.
Okay.
Good thing to be wary of though. So hopefully this can start running this because I want to show this other MCP that I use whenever things are messed up that I don't like.
Hey, Tyler, are
Go
you gonna
ahead.
have recordings of these sessions?
every day will be recorded and then it will be up on YouTube later on that same day.
You got a link to the YouTube?
I will have that sent in a blast because it will be a separate channel that I just made, but I will have that out to everyone today with this one and the one from yesterday. Because kind of my plan is one being like really hands-on, that some of these lead into other things as well. So I would kind of say like some of these, for example, like if I do one with Supabase later on, a lot of it won't make sense if you at least haven't seen other videos and you've set something up, if that makes sense.
Because I know I ain't gonna be able to make all of them, but
Oh yeah, don't worry. My plan is not to have everybody met. I appreciate you guys for coming and taking time out the schedule. I didn't think everybody was gonna
All right.
be able to make
Digital Cowboy's mad at you.
it.
It's like, what do
So
you mean
this
you're
is
leaving? I'm like, I go to Tyler's thing. He's like,
It's all good. So this is just still having regular errors, letting it fix through it. Sometimes you do have boring moments. Like I said, right now I don't have any plans to go into a second terminal to do something, but normally I would be in a second terminal, depending on what project it was, starting up different ideas. And for some people who might be thinking, how many terminals do you run? Sometimes, depending on what it is, I might be running up to 3 to 5 terminals. Usually it's somewhere between 3 and 4. And I might be saying, hey, work on, this one chat is just full responsiveness. This other chat is thinking about like how to condense code depending on like if I see something that I know is like 2,000 lines of code and it can be like put in the subfolders and just different things. Or sometimes I'm out and I see different things, topics on vibe coding, that I just start a new chat and I apply it there. I kind of just have a conversation around that and see like, oh, what's going on? Or how could we apply this? Is this cool? Different animation libraries or different things that I might want to add to my tech stack that I'm not already using or considering playing around with. And I'm really wondering what's going on if VS Code is not being my friend today, because I never have problems running just a local dev server at all in any type of capacity. This is what I'm going to do really quick. Gonna stop this whenever so this is very rare, but whenever you do have problems of just like you do run into a circle, which I do want to say like this does not happen in Claude often. And I think right now it's just finally stop. So we're gonna stop that. We're gonna clear.
I've been on the call, Tyler, but I'll look forward to the recording and I will see you in the next one.
Have a good one, Paul. Right. Whenever you have that problem, you just clear that conversation and it's more of a, hey, I'm having a problem with spinning this up locally. I can't see the website at all to make any changes or edits. And also, when you say a command like that, so just really quick, as you see like all these commands happening, and I don't know, anybody hasn't asked me if they haven't seen, there's like this little blue thing down here, right? This is a task. And it just means something's going on in the background and it can be running. And Claude can kill these tasks. I just killed it myself. I went into the task and I pressed K. And as you can see, every time I say website, it just keeps saying my website, so I can't say that. But that's very helpful because and obviously I'm not doing it right now, but you're going to be doing different things when you're vibe coding and developing. You might see that down there. Or for example, you might see instructions or, in the database, it might say start up the database local. Every time you're building locally, it's going to be local. And that means it's going to more than likely run or deploy somewhere on a port, which is like port 3000 as an example. Any questions on kind of what I just said right there? It's not going to make for sure sense right now because we're not doing anything to run like continuous task, for example, a server. But I want to, when you see that down there, if you're doing anything, let you guys know like what that is or why that's happening. So it's saying there was another server running. It needed to kill that server. Sometimes like when you run a server, it puts a lock on it, which stops like another server from running, which is why I'm getting like multiple red signs of can't do something, which is very rare. I'm wondering like if VS Code is just not being my friend today on this second recording. Let's try it again. So it says localhost. Oh, there we go. So we see a website that is whatever right now, right? My goal is kind of not to do the design super expert or anything like that. We're just going to look. We see a 404 page. We see some things probably not here, right? Super fine. Let's pull back up VS Code. And one thing that is really cool that they added, they have an MCP called, so I have a couple. So let's do this really quick. I need to run a command to disable all of those MCPs. Then I'm going to go back to my MCP and just disable the ones that I want one by one. So there's a built-in MCP. If you press slash, if you are building something, if you press slash and you go down, you're probably going to see something called Claude and Chrome. And this MCP is really cool. It's basically based off a technology called Playwright, which allows you to go and look at the page. So I can say, hey, I want you to actually look at the page because it is not correct at all. I can like scroll to the left, I can scroll to the right. It's not centered. The breakpoints don't look correct or anything like that. But before you make changes, I want you to actually look at the page and see what's going on. Hopefully this does this, it should. Why is this super important? Because a lot of the things I'm sure have heard people complain about is like front end stuff. And as you can see, right, it's saying Claude and Chrome. And usually what that means is it's opening up another browser. And sometimes it like messes up. It has to reset itself. So you see it says the browser isn't connected. So I have to do this. So it's probably going to try to like run another command. And basically it's going to ask like, hey, can I have access to page 3001? I should be doing it right now. But the reason why I'm explaining why this tool is very helpful because it's literally like the entire console log, right? It can see elements when it clicks on there. It can see what happens in the background and all this stuff, which is like just cool. You really need things like, sorry, I just want to see what this is saying. You really need things like that. So I can see that it read the tab, but it didn't do what I wanted it to do for you guys. Are you sure that you use Claude and Chrome to actually look? I didn't see anything pop up at all. Are you going to make those changes as well? They probably didn't make those changes. Once again, I have like instructions set, so it's not in plan mode. Usually I tell if it's not in plan mode, don't push anything out or do anything. But I want to show you guys it using this MCP. Oh, so the reason why it's not using it, it said that something was wrong. So let's do this. We can press enter. We can go to reconnect. Let it restart. If you have MCP problems, this is what you would do before I skip over that. And usually when you add an MCP, you need to kill Claude Code and start a session again. And you can do that by just clicking on the trash can or the terminal over there, or you can do a control CC. And as you see, like everything went away, it killed it, and then you can just open it back up again. If you ever have problems with Claude Code or you're adding an MCP, I think for a skill or for a plugin, you need to do the same thing as well. So if you ever put in an MCP command and like you don't see the MCP pop up, especially if it's saying it, and usually it will tell you like you need to restart it, that would be a reason why that's going on. So I want to use this Claude and Chrome MCP, and I want to make sure. And that's not the MCP server that's failing. There are other ones that can fail. I just want to make sure I am redoing that. So I'm going to say, I'm going to take this off plan mode because I want to do it directly. I want to make some edits to the front page. None of it is correct. I can scroll to the left and right. Can you use the Claude Code in Chrome to take a look and see what's going on? So we'll see this pop up again. And usually what will happen is there will be like a little pop up here. I guess it doesn't want to be my friend today with, yeah, that's very sad. I don't know why it's doing that to me. That's actually like one of the most helpful tools when it comes to the designing on here, which I don't like. So let's, can you use the Claude and Chrome tool? I'm just going to try one more time and then give up. That's very sad. And I'll have to figure out why it can't. Yeah, okay. I guess. Maybe I'm having a slow moment. So there is the extension thing here. And I am logged in, so I don't see why. I don't see why I would be having this problem. I can see it's like this little Claude thing right here is doing it. So I'm not sure why that's happening, but okay. So let me put this on plan mode and say, I have started it multiple times, but that's fine. Can you create a team of agents to go through what needs to be fixed? The layout is improper. The UI and UX is not correct in any type of capacity. Of course, you guys are probably going to be way more detailed, but I'm very simple when it comes to doing designs and front end stuff. And once again, that's mainly because I'm using components from other people. So I like to get to a baseline of whatever it is I'm building. And I've probably already done enough um, research. So I guess let me explain it. There are front end components that have to just do with design. There are other components that have to do maybe with like storage or uploading files and different things like that. And everything else in between to help with kind of how you would do research on components for things that you're building and stuff like that. So a super good example that I always like to give. I hear people say a lot of things, and I know I'm just talking website stuff, but this kind of goes into the vibe coding. We're not building like any database here or anything, but just once again, a follow up on a not building from scratch, right? A lot of platforms like Supabase have libraries for you to build and do certain things. So if you wanted to have, social login, right? They have a CLI command where you can install that and it will install everything you need to start having social login. If you want to have a drop zone, which is, like I said, the example for uploading files, right? Here's a component you can put anywhere on the platform that's reusable for any user to upload files. And then once again, what's more important, it has this backend stuff that makes it work, right? So this component is tied to a bucket, right? Because this is S3, Amazon. It has a path, which is tied to a person, which has max files and all these other things and stuff like that. I know I'm kind of driving in on the component thing, but I promise you it will save you a lot of time of just building anything instead of thinking that you have to start from scratch. It's the main reason why I'm able to build so fast. There are a lot of the core things that you can recognize, you don't have to build over, right? So you can make instructions that say, hey, once again, you don't even have to do instructions at this point. I'm kind of talking backwards because you have the MCPs or the registries, right? So on this left side where I have, all of these files and stuff, and this is not a point I want to drive right now, but there are some important files here where you just simply you put those, right? So you could have a conversation saying like, hey, I want to create a framework if you don't want to use one that's already there, where, what would I need for this framework so I can build multiple things, right? And kind of, not to segue a little bit, I'm talking to my friend Jeff here who uses Go High Level, and I was talking to him about a like a front end builder for like Lovable for Go High Level websites, right? This would be that framework that I would use to do that, right? Lovable, all these other platforms use ShadCN to build, right? I can use that component library or even make my own Go high level component library that works with the Go high level SDK. So anytime somebody vibe codes anything, literally the underlying layer and architecture for connecting to Go high level is already there and you don't have to worry about everything else in between. So we're still planning here to see what it's going to change. I know I've been rambling for a minute and saying a lot of stuff. Feel free to ask questions. And I'm not sure if I'm missing questions because if I'm not seeing hand raised or maybe you guys are typing in the chat. No, nothing at all. So is anybody else building anything at all? Or are you guys just watching me today?
I'm just watching. I have a website in Lovable right now, and I was
Mm-hmm.
considering moving it over to Claude Code just to learn with
Mm-hmm.
Claude Code. I've already built
Mm-hmm.
full projects using Codex
Mm.
and VS Code, but
Okay.
I want to get more familiar with Claude Code specifically for agent orchestration down the road, having multiple sub-agents
Okay.
working on things.
Is
Um,
anybody else in here in that same position? Like you guys already have some stuff built, like maybe in Lovable or something, but you might be interested in like how to rebuild that or do something with Claude Code.
Yeah, Tyler, it's Adam. I just refactored yesterday a lovable app into just Claude Code. I just took it over and basically deleted all the connections from Lovable to the GitHub code source once I had Claude Code rewrite it all.
Got you. Was that process easy for you? Like you understood like to pull it, make a folder, pull it in from GitHub and then do all that, or did you do something different?
Um, it was relatively easy, but obviously I was using Claude Desktop for Q&A so I can
Mm,
get some answers, and then I was in VS Code and CLI to do the work.
got you.
Um, I also found for me visually helpful is to get the GitHub desktop app for the Mac because it
Hmm.
allowed me to visualize the differences and changes
Oh
that,
yeah, like the actual diff, like in the code
yeah,
when you do things.
it
Right.
really
Got
helped me visually understand what Claude was doing behind the scenes to my code base.
you. Hmm.
So that was pretty interesting. It also found a lot of stuff that
It's not gonna
Lovable created a
find.
lot of tech debt, and
Yeah.
it was really it was. I used something called Compound Engineering, which is by a company called Every, and they use Cloud Code to ship their products currently, and so I
Mhm.
borrowed their framework. They have an open repo, and
Just had to condense and go through a lot of stuff, files
yeah,
that
and
were probably 1,000 and
they have three agents. To your point, Sarah, three agents that go off and do independent type of code review.
mhm.
And they have specific ones for like Ruby on Rails and for Xcode for Swift projects that are, Apple based.
Mm.
And it tore the lovable code to shreds. It really did not like what it did. And these are not Claude specific review agents. They were review agents built by this team of developers.
Right, but powered by Claude. Right.
Yeah, but powered by Claude. So if anybody's worried that the agent, Claude as an agent was remarking, putting down lovable code, it wasn't that. These people have no idea that I have it reviewing lovable code. It just tore the code to shreds
Nice.
in the
Nice.
commentary,
Nice.
including the fact that lovable didn't do strict typing by default. So
Oh,
data
like
types
TypeScript. They didn't make sure
it
it was like
wasn't in
all
TypeScript. It
TypeScript.
had no
Gotcha.
enforcement.
No
Yeah,
linting was done, and
nothing.
and and to be honest, I'm kind of glad that you kind of said that, and I'll ask you another question in a moment, Miss Sarah. That's really the one thing that I realized, like really, really early on, because I was a fan of Lovable and VO at some point. But once again, when you, not to be too technical, when you understand that, like, hey, they're just using Vite, which is another framework from Next.js that's still using ShadCN, right? Which is cool. It's great. But when it comes to accessing the CLI and being able to do other things like run simple lint commands and technical things that we may see later on as we push this to production or in later builds. It's so like it's not even funny how that can like really make or break your project. And I don't think that people kind of understand. And this is not to knock Lovable or VO. You can't see the errors in Lovable or VO. Literally, you can't see them. So while you may have something working on the front end, it's kind of like you're lying to yourself or it's lying to you when you put that in an actual environment where like code is supposed to have like these normal checks before they get pushed out to production and stuff like that. Even if you're not doing like a staging and preview, but just linting your code and making sure your code is in the right format before it gets pushed to GitHub and all these other things. It's made me like really think like it's really incredible that if some of these people who make these companies are actually like developers or if they're just AI people, which is a difference in like how you develop things.
Totally. That's why I'm interested in moving my project over. I treat Lovable as like a prototyping tool, basically, but it's not robust from a security standpoint or just from code quality standpoint. One question I have for you, Adam, I'm actually trying to look up the framework that you were referencing. Would you be able to pop a URL in the chat for that?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll let me go pull it from GitHub and I'll drop it in the chat.
Mhm.
It is not an easy start. But once you get it going, it's
Now,
pretty advanced.
what I will say too, if that just happens to be too difficult, inside of Claude, if you type in plugins, they have plugins here too, a plethora of them, which might be very similar to kind of what he's talking about. So they have a like a Hookify one, which is really good for learning hooks. They have one for like Stripe if you're developing in PHP, Swift, Firebase, Lua, different ones that you could use as well to go through and like review stuff as well. And like as an example, I have some like already installed here as an example. So like they have a plugin called Agent SDK for if you're building like on top of the Claude Code Agent SDK, a security guidance plugin. You see like the front end design plugin that I was talking about earlier, a dev plugin for going through like the normal workflow that like a developer would go through, like staging, preview staging and production and stuff like that is what if that happens to give you problems.
The
Great.
the other thing is Anthropic just brought over into their marketplace of plugins something called Superpowers, which I think he was an independent developer and then he started working with Anthropic. And Superpowers is another framework that does multi-agent coordination for development. And it may be a an easier entry into what you're looking to do, Sarah, than the one I'm thinking of. But both accomplish the same goal, which is um, create a specification, a requirements document. Then it takes that requirements document and breaks it into plans, and then it just launches agents to go build the plan. And I
Mhm.
that sounded like what you were trying to think, what you were thinking of a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I run my own AI consultancy, AI cyber. I have a background in cybersecurity. I've been head of information security for many years for startups in the Bay Area, and I really am looking at developing agents for long-term use, multiple projects. I like the idea of having one agent that's like a code architect, another one that's only doing code review, and another one that's like a security agent, just as an example.
Yep.
But I want to be able to plug and play them into different projects. I don't want to have to reinvent the wheel every time for each project. So I'm trying to think of like how do I set this up for success moving forward.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, those are good ideas. So I just want to come back to this really quick. Obviously, once again, I have a lot of things configured on my Claude, which is why like the responses seem like ChatGPT if you used it. It's like so specific with some certain things, but it's going through that re-edit making everything just aligned and normal. And then what I'm gonna do next is go through um just committing that locally with GitHub and setting up the normal, what I call the normal development workflow, right? So we have something here, and then we set that up so whenever we want to make changes, that those changes don't push into production unless we know they actually work, and then tying that in with some things that are called GitHub actions to make things happen automatically as well. So I probably should have told agents to fix this in parallel, so maybe it will be faster. But maybe if we just look at the screen, like we'll see it happen in real time. And agent, I'll probably like I am gonna go look at the site you sent me later, and then I'm probably just gonna like actually make something. I know you might, but I might just make something and like just give it to you. So yeah, who knows? But so far, any questions on any of the concepts or frameworks? Because that's mostly kind of what I've been speaking on today as far as building. A website is just the smallest example, but it still goes into the realm of vibe coding and front end stuff and other things we'll get into back end with later examples and stuff like that. ShadCN made sense. The component registries, stealing other people's components, not stealing, but using other people's components, all that stuff made sense. I will take that as yes. So this is compiling, this is making changes. Still been going for 13 minutes, which is quite funny. And actually, I can't do it yet, but I can kind of, because I don't want to get caught into like waiting for that as a response is super terrible. Going into what I was talking about for setting up this staging stuff, right? So the first step of what you would really need to do is obviously you have GitHub. We need to make a new repository. And we're just going to name this new website demo, even though there's no demo. We're going to create a repository that's blank. Going to take this and just really quick, let's see. Oh, okay, we might already be done with the changes here. I think it needs to restart the server though. And this is probably not going to load because it's restarting the server. Yeah. So this is running a build command. Whenever you're running, as you can see, like the server and the page is running, whenever it runs a build command, and I'm just saying that in terms of like, let's say you are looking at this stuff and you see some of these commands, your server is gonna break and restart. I'm gonna be a little technical. Sometimes when I'm on calls and I'm having these same walkthrough with some of my clients showing them how to use it, they're like, "Man, I was using it last night and like it just broke and disappeared. I didn't use it anymore." And I was like, "Huh? Like, no, that's supposed to happen. Just wait till it restart." So it's saying that like the server restarted, but seems like it's being a little slow. Okay, so usually what happens with that is, let's do this one more time. Go to localhost. Let's restart that. And just in case it made a new server and it's not telling me, we're going to go to localhost 3001. And I have my website popping up, which I don't want. I don't want like that. So, okay. For some reason in VS Code, VS Code has a problem with like running the dev server from Claude Code or something. Oh, goodness. Come on, it's just restarting the server. Oh yeah. I I think I've found something interesting out today using this and yesterday. It's not that like Claude Code is behaving different. I just don't. Yeah, this keeps happening. It might, so let me actually say something. Sometimes, let me just make sure before I make this comment, because I'm gonna say something that's super nerdy. Sometimes in Claude Code, whether you're in the terminal like me or the app, you will also, this did work, you will have problems. And just really quick, because one time this happened and it kind of, this is actually what led me to using the terminal because I used to use this application. Usually when you install this, there's going to be an auto update feature on. And sometimes some of these auto updates will basically like break something that's going on. So I noticed for some reason in VS Code, it keeps running this command whenever it says something is like actually done and it does this, which is not normal. I can't blame that on VS Code. It might be just an update with Claude Code, and it's just something to kind of pay attention to. So if you start using Claude Code and you notice that like it's acting very different, it might be something with an update. Do go like to Claude Desktop and just do a quick Google search, like if Claude Code had an update, and you'll find forums really soon because people like comment on it all the time and you can go through a process of downgrading or something. But I just want to notice that because I do notice today it's being kind of weird. So I just made that simple fix. Of course, once again, the my goal is not to create a super crazy website, right? It's just to get something up using Next.js with those components, with those frameworks that I was talking about, right? So I can see that it didn't finish an about page. I can see it didn't do that, which is actually kind of good because this next part that I'm going to go into is kind of like really the most important when you're vibe coding, whether you're developing a website, whether you're making a web app or whatever, right? It's pushing it to GitHub. And whenever I do updates and changes, how does that process go? So we'll go through that right now. So I first need to close these. And let's just say I like what I have right now, right? This is fine. So we're going to come back here. And now what I need to say is I want to push this to GitHub. Here's the repo. I also want to make sure I have this saved locally with Git before I push to GitHub. Now I'm just gonna, I probably in a few moments ago, I was gonna give a longer prompt, but I think it's better just to do this in sections. So first, I'm just making sure that the changes locally, right, to my computer with Git, because Git is different than GitHub, are in sync and in place. So I don't have to worry about anything messing up locally, right? So you can see it says this project is not in a Git repository yet. Let me set it up, right? So it's setting that up. And if you don't know if something is set up with Git, just ask Claude Code. It'll be able to figure it out for you, right? So it's adding this locally and making sure like, hey, right, this is all the code. You know, if he wants to make changes or whatever, this is all this stuff is added, right? Okay. And then it's taking that GitHub URL. If you don't know, like GitHub has this thing called an origin URL and a fetch. Origin means like this is where this repo lives, and then you have a fetch because let's say you clone a repository and then you pull updates from it, just to explain like those two concepts. So this right now had no repo, nothing attached to it. I can't push it anywhere. I can't do anything. So I give it that GitHub, which is blank, so it can push that code to that GitHub so that code can live there.
Hey, Tylen, I gotta run. Thank you so much for a great session.
No problem.
All right.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah. See you. Bye.
Is it the Black Eyed Peas that has that song? You gotta get, gotta get. Just play that in the background when you're doing that part.
Git is the trouble of all developers and vibe coders, something that's very complex, but incomplex at the same time.
I was actually thinking of using it for tracking all the code, like the agents that I have in high level.
Yeah, you could do that too. Like I have a friend, I probably could share some of his content with you. Like that's what he does for WordPress now, like for all his clients. They're just in one giant private GitHub that his agents go through to like build stuff. And he just manages from there. And like even when he like now, it's kind of interesting whenever he has people, and these are like non-technical people, now he's telling them like to set up GitHub and just give him access, and then he just builds everything in there now. Just gives it to him.
Well, it makes sense because like sometimes there's things in there that people like typically like the account owner has like access to it, right?
Right, 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 right.
Like I have one guy, he's like, my appointment booked without like taking anyone their name, right? They just took their email, didn't get their name.
Mhm.
But he had gone in and mucked with the prompt, right? And so having like that, having the versions of it too, even like
Right. Beyond important.
just having to be able to go back and say, hey, like, yeah, okay, that's fucked up, but you fucked it up, not us.
Right, 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 right.
Or if we look at it from like a level that we were talking, I don't know how deep you've gone into the Chris stuff, but um, it's real, and some of the stuff's pretty cool. And so being able to have the audit of that is also
Right,
important, right?
right.
And
Hmm.
so I think it should be like more broadly used.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that's kind of another reason I want to have these. I want to get people not so like scared. And some of those
Hmm.
examples for some of the business owners are like good examples. It probably doesn't even have to be anything vibe coding related, but like now you know you can put whatever this is here, so the person you're working with or whatever can work with you and make things way easier.
Hmm.
Another thing I want to say really quick. So as I'm getting ready
Is
to
there a good visual for, sorry, like GitHub?
say that one more
Uh,
time for me.
is there something that like for if you want to give like a client a kind of a visual side of it without actually,
There is. I have to do some research and give it to you. There are some other platforms that like take different aspects of what they would be seeing in there and make it more prettier. I just don't know off the top of my head right now. What I was gonna say is so another thing that's super important, you hear about this all the time, and that's why for developer people it's so funny. But when it comes to building anything, right? And if you have like it doesn't even matter if you have it or not, just the process of pushing this to GitHub. So right now, right, if I kind of go through like what's going on here, this says, hey, this it doesn't have a Git, right? We're gonna make one. Um, Now it's asking like, does it have a Git ignore? And what a Git ignore is, it's this file here, and usually it will be red. I don't know why my VS Code doesn't have color, but it will be red here. And what the Git ignore does is when you push this to GitHub, it's basically saying whatever's in here, ignore. It does not get pushed to GitHub. What could that be? Environmental variables, sensitive information that you might have in some documentation that you were using to put in here. So before you push to GitHub, you want to make sure you have a git ignore file to whatever is not supposed to be pushed will be inside of this git ignore file. Never forget that, super easy. So now this is finishing this process of doing that. All right, so now it's saying, hey, let's check what's staged and let's make a commit. And your first commit will be straightforward. Being a little technical here again, think of GitHub like a giant tree. It's really like I think one of the best ways to think about it. And that sounds super weird, but it's a giant tree. And the reason I say tree is because you're going to hear these words called branches. And going back to like what Jeff was saying in terms of GitHub, like it's supposed to track all the changes made to your code, versions, whatever the case may be, and things like that. How does that process even work? Because of branches, basically, right? So right now, we're on the main branch, right? That's straight to production and everything. As an example of what I'm going to be showing in a few minutes before I wrap up is going back to what was generated, right? If I come here, there's still things I want to change, or it might be problems, right? Now, granted, this is a 404, it's an error, and this could be for anything. I'm just using what I have here as an example. This could be anything, right? I'm gonna let this live in production. I'm gonna push this. But let's just say that wasn't the case. Let's just say everything else worked, but I wanted to add new stuff, right? I'm going to make a new branch, right, and do what's called a pull request because I don't want to mess with what's in production, which is one of the reasons a lot of these vibe code apps fail in general, whether you're building a website or whatever. You're constantly in production 100% of the time. There's no way to switch in between that. And I do believe that later on that's going to get better and change, but it is one really simple reason why a lot of things get messed up. So that's basically the process that we're finishing out here. So this said that it made those changes, right? I have a commit. So if I come here to GitHub and then I refresh this, right? I see my code here, even though there's no README, and a README just basically explains whatever your code is and how it works so people can know how to set it up if they were going to use this. And as you can see, I'm on one branch, the master branch. So one thing I want to show you guys that you can set up, which is really helpful with Claude, is if you press slash and you type in GitHub, it's going to say install GitHub app in a repository. And they've made this way simpler. So you can actually this doesn't have this saved, I guess, which is fine. So you would come here, grab this repository, paste it, press enter. This is going to open up Claude to like already try to connect to my GitHub, but I already have that connected. So I can come back here. I can press enter. And then it's going to have two options. And these are really cool. So I want to have automatic code reviews on PRs. So basically, right, same thing. I'm in production. I'm working on a new feature or a bug fix or whatever. That's on a new branch, right? Maybe it's called bug fixes. And I've made a pull request. And when I make this pull request, normally in the development world, another developer will look at it and say, okay, what is done and go look at staging. We're going to have Claude do this automatically, right? Everybody following me? So whenever we make a change, we're going to do a pull request. Claude is going to look at that. And we have two options. We could either tag Claude and have it go through stuff for us, or whenever we just make a pull request, we can have Claude just comment by itself and do it. So I'm going to choose the second one. I'm going to choose the first option of choose a long-lived connection, which will make things way easier. We're not going to use the API key. Let that close. We're going to come back to VS Code. And then this is going to say creating repository information. It's going to go through this, and then it's going to open up this actual PR, right? And this is what basically a PR looks like. Super easy. In order for this to work, I just need to create this pull request. And things have happened right here, which are like super simple. We're going to see this again in a little bit. As you can see, like things are happening automatically. Now, this is not Claude itself doing that, but these are what are called GitHub actions, meaning whenever we deploy code, some things are going to happen automatically. So we're going to merge this. And now this is merged. If I refresh this, I won't have any pull requests open anymore. I can press any key to enter, and that's great. And now what I want to say is last part, I want to set up staging and preview environments for this application using Vercel. We can use the Vercel CLI for this as well. So a lot of these platforms that we're using, of course, you can go inside and try to connect and do that stuff. I want you to know a lot of these platforms have what is called a CLI, just like what Claude Code is. So as an example, you can log in to Vercel, right, through your terminal and basically create a connection for the process that we're about to do. You can do the same thing for Supabase. You can do this basically for a lot of development platforms that you would use to vibe code. You can do this to make setting things up easier. So what I'm doing is typing in a command called npx Vercel login. Even though I'm already logged in, this is what you would type. You would go into a new terminal. And the reason why you wouldn't have Claude do this is because it needs to be kind of like interactive in itself. Claude can't like press enter or do anything, right? So this is going to pop up. It's going to say Vercel CLI. It's just going to ask you to click on that link or you press enter to open the browser, right? You're going to press allow because that code would have matched whatever code this is here. It says I'm authenticated. Bam. That's literally all you have to do, right? So now this prompt is just going to work automatically and be able to use the CLI because I have it set up. I already have this project connected to GitHub, but we need to make a new project in Vercel, and then we need to link them together. So I won't even have it create a plan on that because I feel like it's going to take longer than it needs to. I'm just going to have it run, and then we're going to see how all of these things kind of tie in together. So, and I forgot, I actually have a skill as I was talking about last time, which is Vercel, where it has a Vercel setup skill and deploy where it's super technical of how I was just talking. So it's actually going to like check Vercel, see if it's going to do all those steps needed before you even deploy. Because for example, if you needed to put environmental variable keys and all those other things, it would be checking for that in your app for it to work, or you needed to point it to a database or whatever the case may be, right? So you can see it's going to start running all these commands. I think it's trying to authenticate me again just to make sure it's authenticating and linking my project, but I think I already did that. No, let me make sure it's not trying to run the same command again. Yeah, so it's making me. And sometimes too, I know a lot of people are going to be doing this for the first time. When you know you kind of like done something, don't listen to the AI. So I know I've logged in with the CLI and I know, I've done that plenty of times to know like I shouldn't have to log back in and do that same process that I just did, even though the AI is kind of telling me. Right. So it really is still running this same command, which is so funny. So let's just, I guess, do it again. I don't even know why I need to. Okay. Maybe they did something new or it has to be in the same terminal or something. Usually I don't have any problems with that. So we can see it like saying little things. It's like linking a project. And actually, while that does that, if I was to actually come to my Vercel at the moment, you can see like it actually, so doing the first part, right? Like it made the project, but that GitHub that we created is not linked here. And like I said, for deployment, you want to make that as easy as possible because, you don't want to push between production and other things like that. And actually, I just want to make sure this can run all these commands by itself to kind of show you like an example of what that means of something that I'm building here. As you can see, there are a lot of pushes. There are some with errors, but it hasn't nothing to do with my production at all. So if I was to go to this project, CC challenge, go into the deployments, I have, a bunch of deployments, but if we look, this was a preview, then it was in production, preview, then in production. You see hella previews with errors, right? Things, a new feature, right? You see, this is on a different branch, so I'm building a new feature, right? And I'm not gonna push this. It's not gonna mess with production, right? Until it's ready. And until this preview works, right? It can't go into production and go back on the main branch. It's basically what we're doing and setting up here. And you can't have that kind of all work together if your project is not linked and other things like that. Of course, you can come to Vercel, right? I could come here and then I could press add new and press project and then link that. There's nothing wrong with that, but kind of hone into the point of just being able to work faster and deploy. Once you understand these things, you can make your own agents or have this in your instructions to just go run this when it's time to deploy. For example, like the Vercel skill that's being used right now. So you don't have to worry, but you don't have to log into anything, right? When I build and deploy, I don't log into any of these platforms. I'm just going to use the CLI and I'm going to have Claude Code push it there for me because it has my environmental variables, or I logged in doing the npx login command that I showed earlier. So something happened, just trying to fix something. Any questions so far with that or this deployment process so far? Okay, so it's going through some stuff to push. Oh, I did not mean to do that. A visual deployment process. Gotta explain that to me a little bit more, Adrian. What do you mean?
So, so there's like a lot of moving parts and components that you showed us,
Mm-hmm.
and I know it's second nature to you, but just to kind of map out what connects with what and for what reason. If you would be stepping through from the beginning, let's say building this website, you have Vercel is where things get deployed, then you have all these different components from ShadCN. You got Claude that kind of pulls in on different things and deploys using GitHub. So you have all these different components. It would be good to have like a workflow, like here's where you start, then here's the next step, here's where it may branch when you're going to be doing, let's say, local deployment and then deployment onto the platform for production. And, just to kind of visually represent the process. Because right
Gotcha.
now, I know it seems like a very dynamic process where you're just talking to Claude and like fix this, fix that. But to you, it's second nature because you've done this a million times. For someone who's just kind of mapping out this framework, it would be good to have sort of like a framework visual to kind of
Gotcha. I know what you mean.
put
Yeah,
all
yeah.
these
Just
components.
even if it was like a gamma or a mermaid diagram of like this or something like that, is that kind of like what you mean?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, I could whip up something on that. And that's kind of like, you know, like I said, the main reason of doing this is one, using these tools. How could I say this? There's kind of like no escaping this, if that makes sense. It's bringing it to people who are non-technical faster. So I know, to your point, like there's a lot of moving parts and showing like how do these connect and do that is kind of like that whole point. But yeah, I can make a diagram for that because even clients that I work with doing this hands-on vibe coding with them, they don't understand like when they do a push with Supabase, why the database isn't updated. And I'm like, well, that isn't the code. The database is somewhere, right? So to your point, knowing like what I need to push, where it needs to push, just because I did a push, that doesn't mean everything is pushed, right? And how do I check that and all those things in between? It's really important. It's really unescapable from what I've seen so far. Coming back as far as like what people are having problems with when they use these tools.
Yeah, exactly. Just kind of you need a map, for the road on this journey to kind of so you don't get lost in a rabbit hole. You're not understanding that something is not happening because you didn't do a connection between some tools that need to talk in order to push things out. So having a map to kind of show all these pieces, and I understand that this grows and changes and whatnot, but like just for the baseline setup.
Mhm.
Um,
No, you're right. No, you're correct. Like I said, you know, I'm a little bit different, but I have clients who are kind of what we're doing here. You know, we do that with building internal tools and vibe coding now. So right, it took me a while to like convince my client that like, hey, I need you to understand like how normal development goes. Because if you want to build something, right, and then you're only pushing it on production, how can I say this? You can't blame me, one, especially if I've already like notified you, but you can't get mad that your app breaks because you didn't want to set up normal stuff because AI is giving you the dopamine of whatever you created, if that makes sense. Right. So we would build fast. It's not, I don't want to say it's not hard to build or make it seem like it's easy, but the whole perspective I want to give is for most people, especially who are non-technical, they think they have to build everything from scratch, right? And in general, in the development world, most people don't build from scratch, right? Because there's so many developers that we contribute to certain things, which is why we have things like the ShadCN component library, right? So if you can understand, like, hey, I only need to go here to build everything, and not even that, almost everything that's being used is derived from this, it makes your development process way easier. And just literally everything in between that. So I would get requests for like 3 or 4 new features, and I would tell them like, hey, like, um, and it would get hard because like I would be doing this local thing and they would only be doing it from production. So now you have things that are in production that aren't in sync with local. And if I do another update and try to push, everything is breaking because it's not, you get what I'm saying? So like I've really seen like there's no kind of workaround with getting in between that process. That none of these platforms have made a good process to where you can just be in production and change things and work. And that's gonna be kind of like even worse or maybe amplified if that person's non-technical and they're not even paying attention, concerned, or know about these basic things that should be in whatever you're building, even if it's as simple as a website. So, and I think somebody else just joined. Who was that? Or did you get kicked and come back? I was not able to read that full name there, whoever that was. Oh, maybe I was misreading. Okay, so what does that? We're on the same page there, Adrian. I'll make sure I have. I'll get something up and I'll put it with like this video when it's on YouTube, like a little link, like a gamma or something. There'll be like a visual gamma kind of workflow or document.
yep, sounds good.
Okay, so coming to the end on here. So now we have. So it says we're deployed to Vercel, right? And we always double check stuff, right? But right, we got our URL right here. It says we have our preview environments, staging, unique URL for that. We'll come to that. And then right here we go with creating new branches and doing that stuff. So if I was to come back here and then actually look, here we go, right? We have Sinclair Counseling. This is right here. I can go to my deployments and I can see right now, or I can see it tried to deploy. Some stuff was messed up, but it did this here. Now to wrap up this last part of kind of what I'm talking about to bring it back all together, right? So what have we done? We've created a website. We have pushed it to GitHub. We have linked that with Vercel, and we've also linked a GitHub action with Claude Code that whenever we do a pull request, meaning that we're gonna make like a new feature or chain, that's gonna be there, right? So I want to make a new feature called front end UI update, and I need to add a about page and a landing page. And then you can create those as well. So I have it create that. I'm not going to go in a plan mode for like these last 15 minutes. I'm going to steal from you if you guys stay. We've already been 30 minutes over the end time, which I appreciate you guys staying, but I do want to make sure we get through all the parts. So what it's doing right now is it's making a new branch. So it's saying like, hey, we're going to work on adding this about page and the other page that was missing and giving us a 404, but we're not gonna do that like on the production branch. It's gonna be separate and all that stuff. So let it do that and make that page. And I think if I was right, if I come back, where is that right here? It was the contact page, right? And the about page. All right, okay. It's probably a different page too, but just yeah, for the moment, it will do those. Right, it's gonna create a professional about page. Hopefully it doesn't do anything too crazy. I wish I had more ideas. Like I said, usually I'm working in this terminal over here, just thinking of stuff instead of getting lost in the trance of looking at colors. Or, you might just be walking off to go do something else if you're not caught in staring at the computer screen forever like me. And I think actually already, yeah, made it. So did that. Let's see, is it gonna make the other page? Oh, and that's even perfect because it doesn't even have to make the other page. It'll help me wrap it up a little bit faster, right? So it's saying, sorry, I just wanted to make sure I was reading this. I'm sure it's making it as a pull request, but we'll see right now. It made that page and then it said, um, okay, now I'm gonna commit it and go. Go ahead, Adrian.
Got a question for you. If How do you go about stylistically changing website design? So it generated something based on what you said, right? As for the
Hmm.
initial style, like
Right.
what we're seeing here.
Hmm.
Can you tell it to um, model after, like, let's say if you wanted to change a theme, let's say you want to
Hmm.
change the fonts, you want to change or make it look like some other website or a
Hmm.
combination of several different websites. Like, how would you go about stylistically modifying this so you don't have to go into code and manually modify anything?
So the first thing, obviously, is the most simple. Let's just say I want a Apple style. And before I even get into that, this goes back to what the website I was showing you, Aura, is kind of meant to do. He has prompts and he teaches that whole kind of foundation about talking to the AI in that capacity, if that makes sense. So that's the first place. And like I said, I'm gonna make a like along with that visual guide, I already have this as like a document somewhere. I just need to find it so you guys can like grab it and give it to the AI to use all the time. So that's one kind of like how you prompt and talk to it. Hey, I want a Apple glass-like theme. You got to be specific in those words, but um, and like as an example, because it's hard to figure out like how would you think of those words. You could go to Claude right now and say like, hey, what's the theme of Apple? Right. And it would tell you these certain things that you would then go back into a prompt for that styling to reference that. Then on top of that, you would just go to apple.com, right? And you can take a screenshot of this page. So you have things like the snippet tool where you can take a screenshot, or you have things like this little plugin right here that go full page that takes a screenshot of the entire page and then saves it. You could extract it as like a PDF or an image, right? So like I would save this, download this, come to my download. So this is another trick. You can just drag files into the editor and stuff like that, but I'll come to my pictures, I'll come to my screenshot, right? And then I don't know why. Oh, I'm done. That is in my downloads because I just downloaded it. So I would right click on this, right? I just like doing this personally. And you copy the path. And when you come back in the terminal, so I'm gonna just answer this, right? I can paste this. So I right click. And then I don't know if you see it says image one right there. Then I can reference that and say, hey, I actually want to update the theme and style. I want it to look more like how Apple's design is. Can you take a look at that picture and maybe do some research on what the styling of Apple is and make those changes? Which is probably like a bad thing to do right now since it's trying to like push all this and do this, which is fine, but kind of see like where I'm going. That's where I would go with that. And to add on to that, like I said, Claude has a tool, a plugin called Front End Design. And I don't know if you saw, and I'm not saying these are like the best in design or super crazy. I like them for what it is, and I wish I had a before and after. But it's what I use for like my website. And the only thing I don't like on my website right now, which I haven't changed because I haven't had the time, I've just been kind of busy getting ready for this stuff throughout the month, is like my background color. It's gonna be like a different type of background effect. But in terms of everything else of my website, like the styling and everything, like I like it. It's pretty sweet. Like these change. They show different stuff throughout the website, like in general, depending on which topic like somebody is on. And then I have this other one that I'm building. Oh, that's so funny that like it's not saved. Oh, so my bad. Let me do this because this one right here. Now, of course, like that to what you're saying, right? The styling just doesn't come from like the prompt. It's also from the components that I'm using as well, if that makes sense. And I know I keep iterating and honing in on that. A lot of these things are coming from these ShadCN components, right? So I go find different basically places where components are, and I use them. And if I need to style it or make it different, that's what I'll do. So like I made like this effect here is called a dithering effect that I like a lot, and it made this kind of like the theme throughout my website, even though this is only meant for the hero section. So in other parts throughout the website, like it will still be there. The bottom is, it's a different color right here. If I go like to the individual actual pages of like some of these other ones, it has it right here. I think like on the 100 day, I think that one is like purple. So it's just like cool little stuff. Now, granted, I kind of still don't like this white aesthetic and all this stuff, but it kind of makes sense. This is simple. This is like a landing page. I think my actual website was a little bit more maybe detailed with more components, but that's how I would go. Hopefully that answered your question into like styling. First thing is you need to have some prompts that kind of speak like a designer or a stylist, if that makes sense. And that Aura website is the best that I've seen so far that you can take or and use completely or take and revamp them. Next, you would have pictures to use that. And also what I used to do is like if I would say, take a look at this Apple website, or if it was something specific like this, like it's easy for, once again, if you have the ShadCN components or even the MCP, say, take a look at this website and find ShadCN components that match this layout or design, or find me ones that can make, match up to this layout or design and stuff like that. But that's how I go about that.
Makes sense. And how do you incorporate, let's say you find specific ShadCN component that you want to incorporate. How do you reference that in Claude to tell it like, hey, I want this to be utilized, these specific choices that you made for the components that you found?
Well, one, when you come here, like if you, so what I, and I have like documentation on this as well. It's gotten, I don't want to say easier now, but like just different ways to do the same thing. Like at first, what I did was I just went to all these pages and then I just copied the page and made it into giant documentation of what the command was. So whenever I start a ShadCN project, this is kind of like weeding through the steps of why it's like second nature to me, right? So like, because I know, once again, I'm gonna use ShadCN, um, like when I first used to just like go into how I would build what I'm talking about, I would have the AI, like the first prompt say, download every component from ShadCN. And maybe I would have a markdown file that it could reference where all the commands were there. So I already have all the components. I don't even think about adding a new one. You get what I'm saying? Does that make sense? All of these baseline ShadCN components are here. So I have all of them. That is going to cover probably every part of what I need to put on the front end, if that makes sense. Now, if it doesn't, and how do you judge that or measure that? Maybe it has to do with like a design or something. Maybe it has to do specifically like with Supabase or something. Let me be more specific. Maybe you're building a voice platform, and you look, I'll just use this as a small example, right? 11 Labs has their own ShadCN components if you're building to use that, right? So this, even though it's built on top of ShadCN, they have their own directions and documentation, right? And because of things have advanced so far, you would probably do what I said, right? You would have some documentation, or you would connect to the CLI that's going to pull all of this automatically. That's first. Let me be more specific. First, all of these have a CLI that you put in a command and you can pull all that stuff automatically. Now, right, they either have a MCP, or you would just add this to your JSON file and it would already know to pull from there. Does that answer the question?
It does. I would just have to see it like implemented to see the steps in order to, make it real for me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I would say the first thing, and of course you could come back and like, keep asking me, but come here and look at this page and just look through some of these things. And of course you would have to decide or pick. I maybe wouldn't look. So there's two things, and hopefully I'm not confusing. Like there are some here that are meant for other things like 11 labs, if that makes sense. And then there are some things that are just meant for design. There are some things that are just tied to platforms like Supabase. So depending on what you want to build, that's how you would judge which ones I would go look at or which one I would use, if that kind of makes sense. For me, right, if I was to give you a specific example, everything I build has to do with, you know, a chat interface, right, that's supposed to act like Chat GPT or Claude, right? I think we could kind of agree on that. What would I use? I would use AI elements, right? And every time I start a project, all my AI has to do is run this one CLI command. And now I have access to all of the AI elements if that explanation makes it a bit simpler. It isn't more of like, because the action part, what you're saying, I understand, but I don't want to say it's not something visual, really, if that makes sense. The only visual part and I could be wrong, that I think you get out of it is coming to whatever page like this it is where somebody has components, looking at the components and understanding like, oh, this is what I can use. And then when you're using the AI, once again, it would have the CLI. And depending on, once again, if you have like the MCP attached or the registry added, it's just going to automatically have it there. So you would know it's working. So like my metric, whenever I open something, if I say, hey, make a chat interface, I know it's only going to pull the elements from here. Nothing will be custom. Does that make sense? If nothing looks like none of these components, I know it's wrong or not working.
Right. Um, so as an example, let's say if you wanted to incorporate in a website 11 Labs voice interface that would, let's say, allow people to ask a question, right? And there's a component in ShadCN that has that 11 Labs, and you want to add it in. How do you add it into to your Claude setup? You click on the add component over here and then like
So when you,
copy the
yeah, when
CLI
you,
command and then paste it into Claude so it knows what to look at.
yeah. So I mean, like any one of these commands or anything that you grab, it's automatically going to know what to do because I guess a way to explain it, even though it might not be an answer, it it's a CLI. So like the whole point of a CLI is just giving commands to the computer to do API-like stuff, if that makes sense.
Yep,
So
I'm
these
tracking.
registries are APIs as an analogy. And once you put in this command to connect to the registry, you have access to all of the components for the agent to be able to see it.
Got it. So you go into ShadCN, you find the component you want to use, you add it in, you take the command, and then you add it to your Claude so it knows what you were talking about specifically.
Not to be specific, some of these commands are not they're not like added to Claude. They're ran once and then some edits are made to a file to know like basically pull from this registry of components, if that makes
Copy.
sense. Yeah.
Copy. Yeah, makes
That's a
sense.
better way to
You know,
probably
it would be
explain it. Yeah.
helpful since you have this very elaborate setup with different MCP components and everything. And yesterday we installed Claude, desktop, got into terminal, but there's just so many different modifications that you already have behind the scenes set
I
up
need
for
to
your,
turn them. Yeah, and it's so
yeah.
hard because I don't have another laptop to not have any of those things. And then if I need to like I haven't sat down today and thought about like removing all those so I can just add them back if that makes sense. That's really all it is because it's not something that I want to have. And today I kind of did forget to not even turn off the MCPs and do other stuff, which might just have it look different or behave different or even have a longer response because of the settings that I have.
Yeah, it would be great to have a video in which you kind of set up the environment, um, sort of almost like a prerequisite for people to follow. That way they can kind of replicate your development setup, and then they can have everything ready. So when you do something, it can actually replicate it.
Yeah. So what I plan to do, and this is the last kind of like battle that I'm working on. Like hopefully after this first week or before this first week, I'll like have made my mind up on it. But that website that I just showed you, the Claude Code challenge, that's what that is specifically going to be. So like these next 30 days, like I said, it's really just to be interactive and hands-on, right? Like I don't want to say the goal is to like not have a goal, but my goal is, hey, if you pay for Claude and you don't use it, and maybe you wanted to build a website or you wanted to use Gamma or you wanted to do something, let's be hands-on with it right now. But I do actually have a challenge. So I don't know if you've ever heard of 100 days, basically like a friend of mine, but they have these two things called 100 days of AI and 100 days of no code. And basically it's these short lessons where you learn how to do the things that I'm talking about or Stephen teaches and all these things. They're very, very popular. So I did the same thing with Claude Code. I was inspired because some people that I kind of look up to that educate were doing a workshop on Claude Code and it was like negative feedback in a way that like it wasn't their fault. Once again, and these were actual like developers. So most developers don't use a CLI tool. Most people do not understand a CLI tool and why it's so amazing. And Claude Code is one of those tools, and Codex might be one of them where it does bridge that gap. But kind of like what I'm doing today, you need to know all of these other smaller things in between, like Git and all of those other things. So the Claude Code challenge is literally a challenge saying if you want to use Claude Code, you can take a 7-day sprint, you can do a 30-day challenge, or you can do a 100-day challenge and literally just do different things with Claude Code. And I actually built a plugin, kind of like these things that I'm talking about, that has this whole course here. So like, of course, you can sign up for this course, get email drips, do all that stuff, but you can actually download the plugin, which is like tied to the course, and it will already have those prerequisites installed in Claude Code and modify them for you to do whatever project it is for that day, if it makes sense.
Copy.
So
Is that
I mean, I'm
something?
gonna have that before all that. So that
Mhm.
what you're saying is right, but just to give more context on like what I'm building up to for sure at the end of this 30 days is to create kind of like my own, I don't want to say curriculum, but like this interactive challenge with, of course, things that I've built or things that have been requested that are set up or can check if they're set up. So kind of like how I was talking about like the checklist today, it will be the same
Mhm.
thing with the plugin. So you can have the
Yeah.
plugin installed and you do like /day 30, and then we'll literally say like, oh, today we learned about 11 labs. You need to have the 11 labs MCP installed or all these things installed to help you start doing this project.
Copy. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. So it's also a little bit more learning ground for me. But like I said, this is and it's something I kind of want to be more vocal on. I think I'm just kind of lucky because a lot of people that are joining right now are like people that I know from other communities or like I actually know them. But the impression isn't to uh like I said, I want to give you something that you can walk away with, but it isn't like obviously the end of like whatever you're creating. It's to say like, hey, I've used this tool and I had an actual developer kind of speak techie to me, but show me like why these things are important because I'm going to run into them no matter what using a tool like this or doing all of these other things that I'm doing. So the last part before I wrap up here, and thank you for those questions, Adrian. So I believe we did a pull request, and I know I opened up like a couple of new tabs. So let me come back to my GitHub here, and I know I opened this. Let me make that a little smaller. Just move this down. Because I want to go to my repositories, and then I want to check my new website demo. And I can see and here we go, right? I see I have a pull request right here. Right, or a different branch. No, actually, I have a different branch, but I don't have a pull request, which makes sense. So just want to show this part. Can you just make a pull request for this, please? I see it's on a different branch, but can you make a pull request? That would be great. And remember, the reason why we have this pull request, one, you would do that normally in general, regardless, but because we have the GitHub action with Claude Code, whenever we do that pull request, there's going to be like an automatic code review, which is actually really cool and helpful because what's been happening for me lately is like I've been running like a lot of errands lately. So whenever I'm working on something like this, especially like if I get to a feature or whatever, and I'm able to make that pull request, now I don't have to be at home to continue finish working and making those changes because what will happen is this pull request is like that's basically on GitHub. And because we have this Claude Code interacted, basically anytime okay, it made it for us. Oh, it said it made a pull request already, but I wasn't able to see it. So here we have this pull request. And what happens is this makes it. So I just had Claude make this pull request instead of me coming here to type it, right? Just for context. And what happens is we have a lot of stuff going on. So as you can see, because we've hooked up Vercel, right now we have a staging like environment before it gets pushed. And what was supposed to happen as well was that Claude was supposed to be reviewing this and talking to herself, which I don't see at the moment, but just before I guess, we come back to Vercel because we always double check. We're going to come right here. We're going to go to our deployments. And then I can see, right? Look at that feature. UI update on a different branch, not messing with our production. So that means if I go to production and I actually come back to this about page, it's not going to be there. But if I come to this deployment, which is not on production, and this is supposed to be the oh, it made a whole new website, huh? That's crazy. And I clicked the about page. Here it is. That's so funny. It changed like everything here. I don't know what happened between there. That even leads to my point though, right? You make a change, you look at it now in production because we were in local and it all looked the same, and then we come here and it's something totally freaking different, right? Well, thank God we didn't push it to production. It would have just made our site look completely different and messed up everything.
Yeah, that's true. I think it might have responded to your request to look at Apple.
Oh, yeah, yeah, no, you're right. You're
Remember
right. It was
that?
supposed to do that. Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm saying so many things that I forgot really quick. But yeah, there we go. Right here we go with a change, and maybe we say we don't like this Apple design, and then we change it again, but it still doesn't mess with production. Right. So I know that's like super small, and I said a lot of technical things in between there, but I promise you, this is one of the things that ties a lot of people up with development and doing things like that. And I'm kind of upset because uh, the automatic conversation from Claude didn't happen, and that's fine. I'll show you what that looks like. But I'm not sure if it's going to happen after this pull request. But just to give like a different example, so if I go to my repositories again and I come back to that actual website I showed you, right? So the Claude Code Challenge website, and as you can see, I have pull requests here. They're closed, right? These are just different things. Now, if I come here as an example, let's just come to this one right here, right? Whenever these actions I'm talking about. So I made a pull request, and I have this as a workflow, right? I made a pull request. This happened. I don't know why Claude did a test comment, but automatically Claude is going to respond, right? So it's going to look at my PR. It's going to look at the code. It's going to say, hey, bro, look, you got some things you need to fix here before we actually push this into production, which is fire, right? So it gives me this whole kind of outline, and then I respond back, right? To simply at Claude, hey, thanks. Here are some instructions, fix this. And it will actually fix this in real time on the page by itself, right? It will make a fix, then give a PR, right? Once it makes those changes, the same thing will happen. Like we'll try to like deploy to Vercel or something will happen with the action, right? See changes happening here, long conversation. And we're talking back and forth. I had to update this because I had two workflows going on at the same time, which were kind of like bouncing off each other. And this was the only time that like I actually figured out that was happening because the other times they didn't conflict with each other. But yeah, same thing's happening, right? It's making changes. So I'm making all these changes. I'm having this long conversation on the fly. I'm not even at my computer anymore, right? And then we got to a point where I said, hey, I'm able to push and merge this, and there we go. And I wasn't at home. And that's how you build. A part of how
This
you
is
build.
this is awesome. Anything they can share, like or whenever you're going to come up with kind of steps to follow to set up the environment so that we can kind of mess around with it the way you have it set up.
I will. I'll have a video and what I'll be doing. So like what I hope to do no later than this first week, hopefully. I get my other laptop because the one I have right now is just not gonna work. I get my other laptop back. I'm able to have like a clean install and all because the problem is what happens is like I have another Claude account, but everything for Claude Code are the files on your system. So even if I get another Claude account, it's automatically gonna still have those same settings. So I have to completely use a different like device. And I might do it when I'm at my brother's house or something like that. I just need to be somewhere else. And I'll go through it both ways, including like what I showed of how I use Claude desktop to set up things for my Claude code and other things like that, if that makes sense.
All right, sounds good. Thanks,
Hmm.
man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so I hope this was good. I know I have a cutoff at 12:30, but usually I do go on with things just in general, but I want to respect everybody's time. I appreciate you for staying. And Agent, didn't you also say your son was kind of interested in making websites, or am I thinking of somebody else?
I think you're thinking of someone else.
Okay, I apologize. That might be somebody else from the community that might have said that. I need to go check that back. But no, I appreciate it. Once this is done, I will have this and yesterday's up with on YouTube, and then periodically I'm just gonna be updating the channel description with like a gamma or a document to like what you said, like a visual workflow of doing that and stuff like that.
Yeah, sounds good. Send us an email with with the links to once you're gonna have the videos up.
Got you. I will. It'll be a blast through Luma again because you guys are like technically subscribed there or joined something, so I'll be able to send it through there, I believe.
All right. Sounds good. All right, thanks a lot, man. Real
No
appreciate you.
problem. No problem. Have a good one. Bliss, you still there? Jeff, you might be gone. You guys good?
Yeah, I'm here. I forgot I turned my video off.
You're all good. I know you probably didn't do any building today, but hopefully some of the stuff I was going through was helpful. Things like that.
Yeah, I was actually playing with it to analyze a website instead of building one.
How's that going?
I got sidetracked.
Like with that, right? So that means it was going good.
Well, no, I got more in depth than I think I wanted it to. So
Ah.
I just kind of did a general thing. I have to be more specific. I have to be
Specific.
like, yeah, like work on language or tone or, yeah.
Got you. Got you.
But
Okay.
yeah, it was fun.
All right, got you. Bliss, I'm not sure if you're there. I know your Fathom's here, so he might be gone. I just want to make sure everybody's all good before I end this.
We should tell jokes to his fathom.
Well, I told Joe, like, hopefully I know his like he's always has hella meetings. I was like, but just join one. Just find one to join. I told him I was
He
like, I
will.
thought
I think Chris is coming on Friday.
okay. So which one do I have on Friday? That's is that live hosting? That's not Gamma, because Gamma's tomorrow. Which one do I have for Friday?
What's Gamma? Is that Gamma the PDF one thing?
Yeah, Gamma. Uh-huh. That one should be tomorrow, I believe. That one I have. This one and that one are like the most sign up for sure. That one has like 30. But I'm in the Gamma community and I'm a Gamma ambassador as well. And so they shared it as well there too. So there are a lot of people there that
Is
uh
Gamma that thing that turns you go through and you turn into a PDF?
not just a PDF, but like you can put a PDF or a website and stuff, and it basically
I think is it
creates
a
like
software or is it like
mm, I mean it's like
oh,
AI
I guess I'll find
software.
out tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, there
That one
was
is tomorrow though at 11. Yeah.
we yeah, I had to use something for a client. It was called that. I don't know if it was something else, but fuck,
Maybe. It probably was. What probably happened at that
it
time
was
is
like
they
a
probably didn't have
PDF
an
builder.
API.
Yeah, it was a PDF builders thing, and it was
Nah, you didn't like it?
I
Nah,
can't be
Gamma's.
the same. It can't be the same thing. It can't be.
Yeah, I was gonna say it can't be because Gamma's
No.
good. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah,
Gamma's
no, that's
pretty
why I was
solid.
just like when I heard Gamma, I got
Yeah.
freaking heebie-jeebies.
Yeah, nah, some people make websites with it or like slideshows and different type of stuff. It does more than like it's not just PDF.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
Got you. Oh, Friday I'm doing self-hosting stuff. So yeah, that would be a one that he would join there and some other stuff. And then Thursday I'm doing Firecrawl, some web scraping. Okay. All right, guys. Well, once again, I appreciate you guys. I'll make sure I have some resources and have it updated, have these up on YouTube for sure. I know this is going to take like an hour or two to give me these resources, and I will see you guys tomorrow or on another build. I appreciate it.
No worries, dude. I won't be able to do screenshots for you though today.
No, you're all good. Don't worry.
Maybe
Let
there'll
me
be
know.
something tomorrow I can do.
No, you're good. And I was gonna say too, I haven't finished the last 15 days of this. Like I have 15 already. I'm gonna add the last five today. I'm trying to think the other 15 will probably be platforms that I honestly have not used. So if you're thinking like of a platform, let me know. To be honest, I'm thinking about doing a go high level one, but I feel like that one
Yeah.
might be like more towards the end of the month as I get towards more like complicated platforms or things people actually have. With these, I wanted to
Well,
kind of focus on stuff that
the
people didn't have to like really buy or sign up for.
the Agent Studio, there's a lot of stuff rolling out this month. A
Yeah, I
lot of
seen the
additions.
endpoints for that stuff. Yeah.
But they're like, we're not recording anymore, are we?
I mean, I could stop it. Hold on.
Just